of this Chumash, we meet up with an opening that sets us back. Eila Devarim asher diber Moshe. Well, we never met up with an opening like this. Rather, some of you mentioned to me before, what is the typical opening of many psukim in the Torah? Vaydeber Hashem el Moshe. 1 second. If this is the words of Moshe, meaning it didn't start from who?
Hashem.
It didn't start from God. When the Torah talks about prophecy, and the oral Torah says that God spoke through the throat, the garon, of Moshe. When Moshe is prophesying, it's Hashem speaking through the throat of Moshe Rabbeinu. There is a Talmudic statement of that nature. However, here, the Talmud says, the book of Devarim is mipi atzmo. I repeat those two words. Mipi atzmo. What do you think that means?
From your mouth.
Mipi atzmo. From his own mouth. The mouth of who?
Moshe.
Does this mean Chumash Devarim is not a book of
Prophecy.
and therefore it's not one of, it shouldn't have the Kedusha of what?
Like the other book.
The other 4 books of the Torah. This matter bothered for 20 years one of the great Rishonim, medieval scholars in Spain, Rav Yitzchak Don Abarbanel. He was in wonder, in question, pondering, thinking. He went to so many scholars and he asked them, give me an explanation. What is this book about? What is the essence of this Chumash? And is there or is there not a difference between this Chumash and the other 4? Before we begin to answer or bring one of his answers, there's no doubt that Chumash Devarim is unique in many ways. First, I want to talk about the gap of time. You saw in the beginning of the Chumash a date mentioned. Did you see it? Please tell me the date. Ken, open up your Chumash and see.
48th year.
Give me the exact date, please.
48th year and 11.
But which verse are you referring to? Which year?
48.
40. Which month?
11.
The 11th month. Which day of the month? We're assuming the first of the month of Shvat. Shvat is month number 11. We're told by our sages at the end of this book, which great figure passes away? We are or not told when he passes away in the Chumash. We don't know from the Chumash. We know from the oral Torah. Let me just ask Hananel, do you know the Hebrew calendar date that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away? Do you remember any Chazal, Gemara that you saw or heard? What is the date that Moshe passed away? Do you remember? Yeah, you with the kippah. Do you know which date he passed away? The 7th of Adar. Okay? Total oral Torah. And today, the beginning of this Chumash, we're talking about Rosh Chodesh what? Shvat. The gap in time between the first of Shvat and the day of passing away, which is the end of this Chumash, is what? 36 days. The duration that this Chumash is relating to is only 36 days. And it's a collection of ne'umim. Ne'umim, speeches. Speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu. And again, the Barbanel was in wonder. These are the words that Moshe spoke, meaning it's not from God? So maybe this Chumash doesn't have the equal Kedusha of the 4 Chumashim? This bothered the Barbanel terribly. I want to get up to the answer, but build a few ideas, please, with your permission. There's a Talmudic statement. I learned this with my dear father-in-law on Shabbat afternoon in Hebron, Rabbi Horowitz. There's a Talmudic statement. Listen to it first in Hebrew, of course. Moshe katav sifro v'et sefer bil'am. I repeat. Moshe katav sifro, a sefer shelo, v'et sefer bil'am. Has anyone ever heard of this Talmudic statement? What do you first, can you please share your Hebrews early, you're picking up. Can you please translate for the betterment of everyone sitting here?
Moshe Rabbeinu wrote his book.
His book and
also wrote the Bilam, the story of Bilam.
The book of Bil'am. When it says Moshe wrote his book, we're not talking about George Orwell, are we? No. What are we talking about? The Torah. And he also wrote what?
Sefer Bilam.
What is the book of Bilam, Micha?
Parashat that we just read about.
The section about Bilam. What's the novelty that Moshe wrote this and he wrote that? I mean, is that a question? And do you agree to me?
Mm-hmm.
What's the question? You have an idea?
He wasn't there. He didn't see.
He wasn't there. Okay. So how did he know?
From Hashem.
And how did he know? Let me just ask you, how old is Moshe Rabbeinu now in this year? He's 100 and?
19.
So you say, right, he's going to die on his birthday. Okay, Shlomo, he's going to die on his birthday, 120 on the 7th of Adar. Was he around during Avram Avinu's time, Moshe?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Was he around during Noach's time? Was Moshe around during He wasn't. You like that name, I thought. Right? So what's your question now? How did he know about the story of Noach? How did he know about Bereshit, Genesis? Answer?
Hashem told him.
Hashem told him. Have you ever worked in a legal office? I did. Okay, in an attorney's office. Often the attorney goes to the secretary and says, honey, take dictation and start writing what I'm telling you. How did Moshe Rabbeinu know about the story of Noach of Yosef? Hashem dictated to him. How did he know about the story of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Hashem told him, he dictated to him. Yes or no?
Okay.
So your answer, Michael, he wasn't there. Was your answer or Michael's answer? That doesn't seem to be adequate, is it? What's the difference between Moshe and the story of Bilam?
Moshe's not in, his name is not in there. In the part.
You think he was offended? I don't think so either. My dear friends, is Moshe critical of the Jewish people? Does Moshe back away in writing the shortcomings of the Jewish people?
No.
You're an accountant. Yeah, you with the kippah. How many cases of the downfalls of the Jewish people are they listed in the Chumash? Who can think of the downfalls of the Jewish people and relate it to? Number one, the Meraglim. Number two, Chet Egel. Number three, the bitter waters. Number four, Korach. Number five, Zimri. Number six,
Bilam,
the Moabite woman. Number seven, complaining about the man. Number eight, he said, memory about the word. Number eight, the story of Lot. He wants to go away from Avram Avinu. Number nine, we were in the area of Yosef. Number nine,
the brothers of Yosef.
the brothers in the sale of Yosef. Number 10, Yehuda and Tamar. Number 11, I have a look. Yisrael gave me a lot of things to drink until I finished it. I can still hear. Toda Rabbi Yisrael.
Force themselves into the land?
Go ahead.
They try to force themselves into the land.
The ones that went against Moshe Rabbeinu's idea and they forced in the land. Number 12. The spies. Number 13. Yetziat Mitzrayim is a bad thing?
Before. Like that, afflictions.
But it's not something we did. It's not our downfall. We were afflicted.
They didn't follow Moshe's uprising. They said, we're going to report you when he killed the Egyptian.
Right. The bad mouthing of Moshe hitting the Egyptian. Number 13.
They don't want to go into the land.
They don't want to go into the land. Number 14.
Shimon, Levi, and Shechem.
Shh. Shimon, Levi. Dinah taking a walk in the wrong area. With the men of Shechem. Number 15. Lashon hara against of Tzipporah. Number 15.
He kills the servant. Who?
Moshe, the striking the Egyptian.
Striking, that's a bad thing? The striking is that bad thing? Nechash Nechoshet.
The Lashon hara of Aaron and Miriam.
Yeah, that was it.
You can strike servant. Yeah.
If you start making a list, my name is Listman, right? If you start making a list of the bad things of Moshe of Am Yisrael over the course of the 4 Chumashim, and then you decide, well, let's make a balance sheet. Let's not just write the debits, but let's also write the credits. How many great events about Am Yisrael will you find?
Thousands.
What, sir?
Thousands.
Good stories? Let me hear.
Pinchas, act of zealousy.
Sir?
Pinchas is act of
Pinchas is a great act.
Nachshon.
That's Midrash. It's not written, right? Is it written in the Chumash?
the people saying that they will do at Sinai.
They'll do. Naseh v'nishma. Avraham going into the... Okay, but you're not nearly going to arrive to a balance between the great acts of Am Yisrael and the downshowers. Therefore, we could arrive to the conclusion. I'm going to need a toilet next to me right now. He keeps on bringing me so much water. Thank you so much. That's enough. I think 4 cups of water will do it today. Would you please bring me the toilet? No, I'm just joking. Gentlemen, Moshe is critical. Moshe is critical. The story of Bilam, that Moshe wrote, is that also a critique against Israel? What are the great words of Bilam, one after the other? How great the Jewish people are. Ma tov olech Yaakov. That God doesn't look at the sins of Israel. So what is the novelty? Moshe, the Talmud says, Moshe wrote Sifro, his Sefer, and he also wrote Sefer Bilam. One is a critique against Israel, more or less, a lot of the negativity of the Jewish people, and the Sefer of Bilam, which is only positivity about the Jewish people. B'kitzur, we're coming out of Mitzrayim. You can write a psychological list of all the difficulties and all our conscious problems and all our awareness of our sins and our problems. And now, the generation has perished. The end of the book of Bamidbar, the last year of 40 years, and now the book of Devarim. Well, let's interview the new generation. All they have to do is look back and see what their fathers and ancestors did. Are they going to be full of confidence, or perhaps will they lack confidence? They're going to be lacking confidence. They're going to need a boost. They're going to need motivation. Although one of the ways of motivating, we're going to read the opening of the book of Devarim, are the places that Am Yisrael sinned in the past. Moshe gift wraps it with only hinting to the names of their sins and the places where they did it, because Moshe doesn't want to cause a roller coaster lack of confidence to the Jewish people and think, oh my gosh, we did this bad thing and we did that bad thing. We're not going to be able to go in. We're not going to be able to go in. Moshe Rabbeinu comes up with ideas. How will I motivate? How will I stimulate this generation that all they have to do is look back and see what their fathers did, and they're going to say, well, we won't be able to do this either. We're going to fall and stumble. We won't be able to conquer the land, because they're going to look at themselves and see, wow, look at the sins. Look at all the setbacks. Who wouldn't be disenchanted? Who wouldn't be in a state of despair? Who wouldn't have self-confidence that we can do it? So here is Moshe Rabbeinu, 36 last days of his life. He takes upon himself these ideas, how to stimulate this generation that so much requires motivation, that so much requires confidence. And therefore, Eila Devarim Asher Diber Moshe. No, it's not initiated by, rather initiated by Moshe. So how is it holy? Rav Yitzchak Dona Barbanel takes the following approach. Hashem knows, hears the ideas of these speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu. Like I said to you, this Chumash is divided into 3 or 4 major parts called the speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu, all in these last 36 days of his life. And God says, Moshe, go with it. Write it down. I'm going to take dictation right now. I'm going with you. I want your words, your ideas to be this 5th Chumash. And therefore, don't think for a moment, says Rav Barbanel, that the holiness of this last Chumash, which is a result of the speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu, don't think it's less in holiness than the 4 Chumashim. It's equal. This was what the Barbanel was pondering over, had a difficulty over. Machon Meir Devarim Asher Diber Moshe, and it doesn't say Vayidaber. It doesn't say Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemor. However, who said go with it? God, and therefore this is nevuah as if it's from God, because Hashem knows what Moshe is about to say. Now, in addition, in this Chumash, if you relate to the books of mitzvot, remind me the names of our great scholars over the generations that counted the mitzvot in the Chumash. Give me a name. Rambam. Give me another name. Sefer HaMitzvot. Ramban. Sefer HaMitzvot. Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch. They enumerate close to 200 mitzvot. What does that mean? That are written here or hinted to here. Could they be those that now were given by God to Moshe? Answer, yes or no? I repeat the question. Can 200 mitzvot that are recorded here approximately, is this the source of the mitzvot? God speaking to Moshe in the 40th year, yes or no? It can't be. Why? Why? Where are the mitzvot given? Only Mount Sinai. If we have many mitzvot that are new here, the din of Yibum, the Ramban Nachmanides brings us in his intro to this Chumash, this idea. The mitzvah of Yibum doesn't appear. Yibum is when you marry your sister-in-law when your brother passed away with no children. The din of Yibum, the din of Motzi Shem Ra, slandering someone. The din of Gerushin, divorce. The din of Eidim Zomimim, and others. This is not the source of them, even though they're written here for the first time. The source obviously has to be from where? Mount Sinai. All the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. So what's happening here? Here is where Hashem decided to place them. But it doesn't mean that it was told now. Don't misunderstand. We're not learning a book of history. If mitzvot appear here for the first time, it's because God wanted it to be inserted here instead of being inserted in Shemot, Vayikra, or Bamidbar. Do you follow what I'm saying? Furthermore, there could be a review, a repetition of other things mentioned in former Chumashim, and for that reason, it has the name what? Or the nickname of this Chumash. That's nicknamed Mishneh Torah. Spell the word Mishneh, please, Eov Yosef.
Mem, Shin, Nun.
Again, hey, look, he's working on his Opan in his Hebrew studies the last month or so, 2 months, am I right? And you're picking up beautifully. Kol hakavod to you, Eov Yosef. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. Now, Mishneh Torah, the root of the name Mishneh is... No, I meant the Hebrew root. Sheni. Sheni.
Repetition, second.
Second, very good. Okay? Vishinantam levanecha. That's an excerpt from? What does Vishinantam levanecha really mean? Why does it mean tell or teach? The essence of teaching Torah is through repetition. The word Vishinantam, what is its root? Shnei. Now do you understand? You just can't go to, to your Rebbe's classes and learn and not go to the Beit Midrash and review and repeat. Mishnah, Chumash, Mesilat Yesharim, Kuzari, Mishnayot, and so on. You have to learn and repeat. It's not something academic you learn it once and that's it. Finito de la commedia. No. We're talking here about the essence of the study of Torah is repetition, review. And therefore the word that God uses for the study of Torah has to do with repetition, vishinantam, from the number shnayim, l'shanein, to review, repeat. So this Chumash is called or nicknamed Mishneh Torah because there is a repetition of matters. But please remember, we're now addressing a nation that in 36 days is going to lose their great leader, their Rabbeinu, our rabbi, our teacher, who brought Torah down, the abstract Torah down from heaven to our material earthly world. And don't tell me it's called prophecy, because Yechezkel is also a prophet, Yeshayahu is also a prophet, Yirmiyahu is also a prophet. But the level of prophecy that Moshe Rabbeinu had is so deep and so essentially different and a higher level than all the rest of the prophets. That's what enabled Torah to be brought down from heaven down to earth. It could not be done by the level of prophecy of Shmuel HaNavi, or David HaMelech, or Shlomo HaMelech, or Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Odei HaNavi, and so on and so forth. Right now, last board, anyone have any questions? After he starts rebuking the nation, gift wrapping, because he wants to honor. You read the first few verses and you see Rashi. Each word is a symbol for a place or idea where they sinned. Why gift wrap it? Moshe does not want to take all the air out of the balloon. He doesn't want to think, oh wow, our parents flunked, we fell there and fell there. We're also going to fail. We won't be able to overcome the Canaanites. Canaanites are strong. They're warring people. He has to slightly refer, we need some Musar. There are some great Musar scholars that say, you know what? The book of Devarim is the best book of Musar, because there it talks about our flaws, our lackings, our times that we sinned, and so on and so forth. And some even explain that this book is perhaps a channel to connect the written Torah, Torah Shebichtav, to the Torah Shebal Peh, the fifth book. There are a lot of laws and halachot that are brought as midrashic laws in the Talmud and midrashic books, and so on and so forth. So we're going along this idea, gentlemen. Yes, Chumash Devarim, with all the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu's speeches, it is godly. It has the holiness of the 4 books of the Torah, because God said, Moshe, write it down. Your ideas are great. I want it. I want all these speeches to be written down. So on the one hand, they're initiated by Moshe Rabbeinu. However, who gave the green light to be for dictation? Hashem did. That's how the Abarbanel explains. And therefore, this Chumash has equal holiness to any other Chumash. Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, and Bamidbar. I want to bring your attention. What will be the chief or major mitzvah to this generation? The major commandment. What will it be? Even though this book of Devarim is 34 chapters, what will be the major mitzvah? To settle the land. They have to prepare themselves. Okay? Moshe will pass away. So before he passes away, he invites anyone and everyone, like you see in verse number 5, Be'evar Yarden Beretz Moav, Ho'il Moshe Be'eret HaTorah Zot Lemor. Anyone that has a question, this is the last time. This is your opportunity. Okay? Until now, what were we doing for 39 years in the desert? Bugs Bunny commercials, there were no. Watching Olympic Games, there was not. We're learning Torah. Who put the study hall together? Who is the disciple of Moshe Rabbeinu? Yeshua. And he's the upcoming leader. Leader, pseudo-king, chief of staff, prophet, all in one package, right? It's a package deal. He's going to lead the Jewish people. So right now, Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, last call. Anyone that needs interpretation, explanation, you have a question of halakha, of our matters, who we are. And he purposely says, if you have questions, I want to remind you in verse 2 that we were delayed. From Eretz Yisrael, from the time we moved from Sinai, in verse 2, Achad Asar Yom, there were 11-day trip, Mei Chorev. Chorev is a nickname for Mount Sinai. Mei Chorev through Har Seir. Har Seir. Are you Adam Seir? I can see right on your, you. You have a beard, you have peyot, you have a lot of, Ata Adam Seir. Hairy. I didn't mean it as any man. I'm just using it as an example. Who was the original Seir? Esav. Slicha? Esav from the word Asui. He's made. The way he was born is if he was complete. With hair, his body, and so on and so forth. Seir later becomes a mountainous area south of the Dead Sea. The plan of bringing the Jewish people into the land of Israel, from Chorev, we travel from Mount Sinai to a place called Kadesh Barnea. And from Kadesh Barnea, the plan was going through Har Seir. From Kadesh Barnea, we sent out the spies. And then the trip was delayed until year number? 40. Why 40? What was the significance in the book of Bamidbar to the number 40? What was significant? Why was 40 chosen? Lucky number in Vegas, what's going on?
40 days in Moses.
40 days, no, that's not the reason. The trip.
Levels of impurity?
The trip, it stated literally. The trip of the Meraglim was,
40 days.
so 1 year per day of traveling of the spies. Therefore, what was tacked upon us, the punishment, that will be 40 years wandering in the desert. Is that clear? That's where the number 40 is. Right now, that 40 is coming to a culmination. Everyone everyone passes away. This is the generation that's going in. Everyone alive right now, other than Yoshua and Kalev, everyone then was under the age of 20. That means the oldest people we have here, more or less, are right now 59 years. What did you say, Shlomo?
You wrote up on Shabbat that people that were over 60.
Right, there could have been people over 60 that were not taxed. That's right. The Levim did not sin, so maybe they too. Very nice point. Thank you very much, Amikam. Gentlemen, then Moshe says in his opening speech in verse 3, and I want to open up a question. You see this guy? Don't look at him. The guy, he's a right-wing extremist. Don't look at him right now. He's a right-wing extremist. You and I are lefties, right? These guys that just take over the land of everyone. It doesn't belong to them. They're just capturing land. They're colonial people, these guys. Yeah, don't look at him right now. He's colonial. Could it be that we are a colonial people? That we're taking away lands that do not belong to us? We want to state something very, very important about this Chumash. God, as Avram puts it and is commanded, keeps the derech of God to do tzedakah and mishpat. What does the word tzedakah mean?
Righteous.
Could mean charity, righteousness. And what is mishpat? Judgment. We, as the descendants of Avraham Avinu, do not take land, property from anyone, unless it belongs to us. Let's think of an example. Before, here in verse 4, you notice Moshe Rabbeinu mentions in his speech as he's rebuking the nation that's going to go in, he talks about 2 wars. What are the 2 wars he mentions there? Sichon and Nog. Who won those 2 wars? Mentioned in which Chumash? Bamidbar. Who was the leader of the nation? Okay. Now, please go ahead and in the speech of Moshe Rabbeinu, go please to chapter 2. Go please to chapter 2. And Moshe relates to, we were traveling on the Moab road. Do you see where I'm on right now, verse 9? Actually, before verse 9, we wanted to go through Seir. What did you say, Amikam? Which nation Seir comes from? Edom. And the name of the person, the original Seir? Esav. Excellent. Esav, Edom. We got a command from God that when you're going by the borders of Esav, don't do provocatia. Don't be provocative. Do you see the verse number 5? Al titgaruvam. Why? Hey, want to do a little scarring, a little boxing with me? No. Don't provoke. Don't look up for a fight with Esav. Gee, I thought those are terrible people. Maybe they deserve it. Esav has what we call zchut avot. Do nations have such a thing? Zchut avot? Well, the fact that we're not allowed to start up with Esav, that's because Esav was brother. Hey, bro, the brother of? Esav is the son of? Yitzchak. He's the grandson of? Wow. That's what we call in modern day Hebrew, yichus. Meir, what is yichus? Lineage. Good lineage. A purebred, is that what they call them? Yeah. Those thoroughbred horses, what are they called? Purebreds, is that the word? Is it, or is it something else? Purebred. Okay, sorry to compare human beings to horses, but the word you understand. In other words, they're quote unquote what you guys call Gentiles. Nations of the world, some of them have zchut avot. Don't be provocative to Esav when you're traveling. What about Moab? Look at verse 9 and 10. Verse 9 and 10 of chapter 2. When you're traveling on the Moab road, God told us, don't be provocative to Moab and don't go to war against him. Why? What's so special about Moab? Does he also have zchut avot, the merits of ancestors? Who does Moab come from? Lot. Lot. Lot is the nephew of Avraham Avinu. Mishpacha, huh? Family. So this is interesting. Mishpat, there's law and order in the world. And there are those that started as individuals from the Avraham Avinu family. They developed over the course of generations to become nations, living in geographic areas in this on the western side of the Middle East. Esav, don't go to war against them. Moab, don't go to war against them. Why? They deserve Yerusha. which means,
Inheritance.
what does it mean, inheritance? Land. Don't be provocative to them. Now, do you see or not in verses 10, 11, 12, and 13? Please read it. 10, 11, 12, and 13. Perek Bet. Has everyone found it? I don't want to go forward until you have it in front of you.
Perek Bet. Perek Bet.
In Perek Bet, yes. We're now told here something, gentlemen, about the historical matter of the land of Moab. There used to be a nation there called Amim! Amim! No one's clapping for my drama, but that's, you see the hard time I have with these students. Amim from the word Ema. Ema vafachad, an idiom in Hebrew. Ema is fear. There was a nation there called the Amim. What do you think they instilled? Fear. And they were very strong, just like the Anakim. Who are the Anakim? The giants. What would they call there in verse 11? Rephaim. That's the biblical name for giants. Please get a Chumash or Tanakh. Don't read it by heart. Rephaim. And what did the Moavim call these people? Amim. What do I need this historical concept? And by the way, who lived in Seir? In verse 12. Who historically lived in Seir? The Chorim. They were also there before the Esav people came. What did God do for Moab and for Esav? He helped them do what? To drive these giants, these strong nations. Whatever historical period God is talking about, I don't know. And the time, of course, is not important, apparently. He let Esav drive these strong people out. These giants out, the Amim. What do I have to know about history? Come on, give me a break, man. Furthermore, let's go to verse 17 and talk about the border of Ammon. Provocatio. Can you do provocative things to Ammon? Prove it to me, verse 18 and 19 of chapter 2.
No.
What does it say?
Shall not distress them. Shall not
And in Hebrew, of course, in Hebrew. V'karafta, you may come close to Bnei Ammon. Al titzureim. Don't make them your foes. Val tidgarbam. And do not be provocative. Why not? Ki. The Jewish people are a nation of justice and mishpat. We just don't do anything and everything we want to do. Ki lo atain, I'm not going to give to you me'eretz b'nei Ammon lecha Yerusha. Why not? Ki, we're told here. There's an order in the world. Ki, tell me the rest of the part of that pasuk of 19. Excellent, you're reading beautifully. Ki livnei lot netatia. Huh? There's an order in the world. What do you think, this is the Wild West? What is it, cowboys and Indians? No. You're not going to fight Ammon. Who is the historical father of Ammon? Lot. Lot, you said before, is the nephew of Avraham Avinu. There's an order. Mr. Bilam, can I talk to you right now? Thank you. Would you please repeat to me one of the prophecies you said when we weren't even listening, but God listened, and He told Moshe to write the book of Bilam, like you said before. Yatsev. No, I'm making a mistake. In the song of Ha'azinu. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I mean? When I say the song of Ha'azinu, it's not the Rolling Stones, it's not the Beatles. I'm talking about the song of Ha'azinu. Where is the song of Ha'azinu? Towards the last parsha. We have the Song of Ha'azinu, chapter 32. Poetry of Moshe Rabbeinu. Listen to the following words. Yatsev gvulot amim lemispar b'nei Yisrael. I repeat. Yatsev, he stood up, he erected gvulot. The borders of amim.
A nation?
Lemispar b'nei Yisrael. The base number of nations in the world in the time of the Torah is which number?
70.
Why? Corresponding to? Correlation to? No, where do I get 70 nations? Corresponding to what?
70
language.
No, they're all the same. Languages and nations are the same.
To the 70 people that went.
Beautiful. Kol hakavod, Meir and Amikam. Did you plan this out before? Should I talk at the exact minute and second? That's what I thought. It's very good. Tizmun. Listen, 70. The building block of the Jewish people going down to Mitzrayim are 70 individuals, men, women, children, and grandchildren of our ancestors, of Jacob, his family. That number later becomes the base number of nations in the world, because Am Yisrael and the world. We are the heart to the entire world. We're related. We're connected. We're here to bring the light of Torah, of goodness, to the entire world. We're not a bunch of snobs. We're here to give, to stimulate. First, we have to stimulate our own nation. First, we have to make them understand. This shiur is for our righties and the lefties sitting here. Yeah, you, the lefty guy. Yeah, you. I want to explain to you that we go according to the law and order. There are nations here, you don't touch them. You're not colonial. You don't have a right. They have zchut of vote. So now let's get to the big question. What about the land of Canaan? What right do we have to get to it? But before we do this, I want you to look at one of the nations that's mentioned here. Where is it? The Zamzumim. Here they are. Look, in verse 20. There's a nation called Zamzumim. Wow, wow, wow. They're lands of giants. And the Ammonim were first, who was living in the area? The Zamzumim. And who overcame these Zamzumim? In verse 20? Who allowed the Ammon to overpower them? The Zamzumim are giants, they're leaders, they're forceful people. Why was God interested in allowing Ammon? Moab, Edom. So you're talking here about Ammon, Moab, Edom. Repeat those three. Repeat those three.
Edom, Moab, Ammon.
Edom, Moab, Ammon. These three nations. Do you know what I know? That when God promises Avram Avinu the land of greater Israel, that will go up to that river called the Prat, we familiarize ourselves with the land of 7 nations. Commonly called the 7?
Canaanite nation.
Does anyone here, sitting here, know of the term the land of 10 nations?
It's the promise to Abraham in Bereshit.
In the Brit Bein HaBetarim, in that covenant. What becomes the other 3?
The Ammon, Edom, and
Very good. Later on in the future, those landmass areas of Ammon, Moab, and Edom will become part of greater Israel in the time of the Mashiach. Who said so? He said so. God, I'd like to make a question. Isn't that not fair? Why should they lose their areas? Good question. With that question, we want to know, what right do we have to capture the land of Canaan? So, we're going to get into, it says here in this book, in the speech of Moshe, you're not going to conquer this land because you're a tzaddik. You're not going to conquer this land of Canaan because you deserve it. You really don't deserve it. Our history of 39 years proves that. We don't deserve it. We were naughty boys. Moshe's book is very critical of the Jewish people. We said if we had a balance sheet, we would see a great imbalance between our good acts and our plundering and stumbling and falling. So why do we deserve the land of Canaan? 2 reasons. Number 1, and this is going to answer the question what you said before, God wants us to be a nation of judgment and righteousness. We're not going to take something that doesn't belong to us. Why do we get the land of Canaan? Why should the Jews in this generation of Devarim and the Jews of today who did not yet learn in Machon Meir and learn Torah Eretz Yisrael, our lefty brothers, why are they often trying to side with our enemies? Because they think we're a bunch of thieves. We came in and stole the land from these Arab entities living here. That's not right. Well, We have two answers that through the study must suffice our curiosity, our understanding, and motivate us to go forward. Number one, there's a promise from God. 400 years ago, in the covenant called Brit Bein Amitarim, in the book of
Parashat.
chapter
14?
15, very good.
4,000
Chapter
years ago.
4,000 years ago, God talks to our grandpa. Yeah, your grandpa, my grandpa, and your grandpa as well. He is not a lone soldier, a lone settler. He's the father of the Jewish people, the forerunner of what becomes the nation of Israel. And he says, I'm establishing a covenant. A Brit starts, initiates from heaven, from God. It is not connected to any condition. It's unconditional, whether we deserve it or not. This is God's plan for the world. Oh, how are you doing such a thing? You're taking land away from these cats. They had the Canaanites. Do you remember where they come from? Who's the father, grandfather of Canaan? He comes from which family? Cham. And Cham comes from? Noach. Remember, Noach had 3 sons, and they are Shem. Very good. Cham, you're right, is the second one. And the third one is called? Yefet. Very good. Repeat those 3 names. Cham and Yefet. Close your eyes, Noach. Noach had 3 sons. What are their names? Very good. I see you're reading this popular book called the Bible. Chumash, Bereshit chapter.
That one, no. Which one? Noach and his kids?
Yeah.
That's like 10. Like you?
No, it's less than 10. It's 8 or 9. 8. Check it, and so we can tell the listeners what it is. Gentlemen, Canaan has a right to his land. He has zchut avot. He comes from who? Noach. Why are we conquering the land? Listen to what Rashi brings in the name of our sages. God will never allow us to overtake a land unless the inhabitants have their sack filled up with sins, chataim. Is it 8?
9.
9.
Well,
Listen. Ad shelo nitmala sa'atam, the Talmud says, until their package of sins is not filled up, they will not be ousted out of the land. I'll get to your question in a moment, I'm sorry. God foresees that in 400 years from now, the Canaanite culture will be so terrible between them and their fellow men, them and God, that they no longer deserve to be living in the land. That's when the nation of Israel appears on the scene, and we're commanded now to conquer the land that God was kind to the Canaanites for hundreds of years, allowing them to settle there, giving them a chance to leave their Sunday morning activities and their idolatry and their corruption and their lying and all this, and their molech idolatry and so on and so forth. But they did not. And because they did not, God says, I want you to settle the land of God, the land of the Shekhinah. So we're beginning to explain that in this speech of Moshe Rabbeinu, these last 36 days, one of the major ideas or themes that Moshe is now to convince the people that we have first a right to the land of Israel, a divine obligation to the right of Israel. And for you lefties sitting here, think we're not taking the land away from anyone whatsoever. It was given. Who gave them the land? Who gave the Canaanites the land? Who's going to take it away? Hashem. The one that gave it to them can take it away from them. And therefore, for we, in our generation today, when we're coming back to the land of Israel, we were never disconnected to the land of Israel for 2,000 years. Okay? Ask the Bnei Menachem in India, so distant from oral Torah. Ask the Ethiopians before they came here, so distant from oral Torah. Every year they talked about Yerushalayim. Every year they talked about the land of Israel. Both them were willing to walk here by foot. It's not the American dream, getting on a 747 with air conditioning and a carpeted plane and getting, kosher meals on the plane to get here. There were people that were connected to the land of Israel despite the disconnection for so long. Why? It's part of our heritage. It's part of our history. It's part of our guts. It's part of our inner beings. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu here is explaining why we deserve to motivate ourselves, stimulate ourselves, and do it as an obligation.